stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any changes to the agenda?
Nope.
Okay. Anyone want to make a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion.
All right,
I'll second.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then public comments. This is the public opportunity to comment on items not listed on the agenda. Do you have anything that's to comment that's not listed on the agenda? Didn't think so. All right, any announcements?
Nope.
All right. And then approval of the minutes. Consider approval of the following minutes for February 25th, 2025. I didn't notice any changes or any corrections. Anybody else notice anything?
No, I didn't have any.
No?
Good.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve. Anyone want a second?
I'll second. Okay.
Okay. All right, public hearing. Consider amendment to city code concerning cannabis-related
I have
business.
to vote on it.
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
Oh, do I have to vote on it?
Oh, sorry. All in favor of approval of the minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Sorry. All right, public hearing. Consider amendment to the city code concerning cannabis-related businesses in the B6, I1, and I2 zoning districts.
Yeah, so the amendment to the zoning code is based on cultivation. Anything that we did last year, we did as conditional use because they didn't have the rules out yet for the Office of Cannabis Management in Minnesota. They have the preliminary rules out now, and we feel comfortable that it would be much simpler for everyone if we made it a permitted use instead of conditional in all those various zoning districts. The primary reason is because we have 30 days to respond back to the Office of Cannabis Management, and conditional use permits take longer than that, and I don't see how that's going to work out well. So,
Yeah, I noticed that difference, so it's kind of just to abide by law, basically.
yeah.
Okay. Right, any questions before I open the public hearing? No. All right, I'll open the public hearing at 7:06 PM. Anyone want to comment on the amendment to the city code considering concerning cannabis-related businesses? Please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Is there anyone online? No, okay.
No, there's nobody online.
Okay. I'll ask again, anyone wanting to comment on the amendment to city code concerning cannabis-related businesses in the B6, I1, and I2 zoning districts, please stand at the podium, state your name and address for the record. And I'll ask one more time. Anyone want to comment on the amendment to the city code concerning cannabis-related businesses in the B6, I1, and I2 zoning districts? Please stand to the podium, state your name and address for the record. No? Okay. I will close the public hearing at 7:07 PM. Any questions considering the 30-day and 60-day? No? Okay, it's pretty clear. Okay. So do we just need to
We
make
need
a
To
recommendation?
the city council
Okay.
regarding the amendment to the zoning code.
Okay, I'll make the recommendation to amend the city code to, what do you want me to say,
Or-
like the,
Adopt ordinance, draft ordinance. Yeah, that's okay.
the draft ordinance?
That's included
To meet
in the
this-
packet.
Proposed amendments.
Okay. Anyone wanna,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, general business. A concept plan review of Dakota Acres Second Edition, True North Development LLC applicant.
Applicants are in the audience tonight, so if you have any questions after the presentation, feel free to ask them. So we last saw this back in December 17th at our Planning Commission meeting. The concept has changed a little bit since then, so I'll go kind of quickly through the stuff that hasn't changed as much. The property here is located directly west of Dakota Acres First Edition. It's proposed for townhome units similar to the First Edition. 40 townhome units in total. Here's a site plan. Again, general location. The proposed plan does meet required density as required by the comp plan. The zoning is proposed to be R4, actually PUD zoning with underlying R4 district. Apartments and townhomes with more than 8 attached units are permitted uses in this zoning district. And as mentioned, it does meet the density requirements. As part of the development, there would be a private street running north and south. As part of that, the city code requires that PUD zoning be applied anytime there's a private street running through a development. As part of the PUD process, the applicants have indicated to staff that they intend to achieve the intent of the city's PUD zoning ordinance by including landscaping above the city's standards to offset the effect of any variations granted as part of the PUD. The concept plan provided shows 36% of landscape space, which exceeds the city standards by 6%. R4 standards, we've gone through those before. It does meet all the parking setbacks, the building setbacks. It does not meet some of the minimum width of the units, as we mentioned before. And also, it does not meet the attached unit number. In the southern half of the development here, there's 5 units and 6 units. Anything less than 8 is not allowed as part of the R4 zoning district. So that would all be part of the PUD approval process as well for the southern units, as well as the southern units not achieving the minimum width of 25 feet. I think they're somewhere just over 20. Maximum height, pretty standard. Nothing's gonna go over 35 feet. For this zoning or type of housing, the city regulates building facade finishes to consist of Class 1, Class 2, Class 3, or Class 4 materials listed here. It does not include wood. Actually, Class 4 includes wood, but there are a little higher standard requirements. Some miscellaneous requirements that go along with the building exterior building facade finish. 25% must be Class 1, which consists of that brick, stone, glass. We see that a lot of times just in front of the garages. As mentioned before, 30% of the site shall be landscaped. They're applying to exceed that by 6% as part of the PUD zoning offset. There is no wetlands on the property, and a new delineation will not be necessary nor required by the city. Utility plans have not yet been received, but sewer and water are both available to the site via Stubbs and James Parkway. Easements, 10-foot perimeter easements, 5-foot wide interior easements will be required for drainage and utilities. Additional easements may be required later on after the city engineer gets a chance to further review once there's an application. The stormwater pond located on the north side of James Parkway most likely will need to be expanded a little bit to accommodate the impervious surface of the proposed plan. Townhome requirements, the proposed concept plan lacks the required 22 enclosed and 22 off-street parking spaces. As mentioned at the December meeting, we are in support of the reduction in required parking spaces through PUD to accommodate that type of new housing style in the city in the southern half of the development. So that's kind of a done issue now. Access is off of James Parkway, which is a minor collector. A traffic study most likely will be required based on the projected traffic generation. Identified area for snow storage is depicted on the concept plan in the southwestern corner of the property. The unnamed private street will be required to have a minimum width of 24 feet. It is shown to have that. Ownership over all the common elements of the development, which really just comes down to the private road and the play area, shall be under the ownership of one association. No additional sidewalks or trails are required as part of the comp plan. Land dedication of 8% or cash contribution of 8% of the undeveloped property value is required for the parks component of the project. Input will be sought from the Parks Commission. They previously recommended cash in lieu of land dedication for a former proposal on this property. That reasoning is due to nearby parks, including Wagner, Whispering Creek, and Eagle View School. 10% of the site shall be usable, open recreational space for the project residents, which could be indoor or outdoor. Both active and passive uses count towards this requirement. It just has to be, if somebody can walk their dog through there, that would count. It has to be usable, though. The developer must identify 13,896 square feet within the development to fulfill this requirement. The square footage of the play area depicted is currently unknown, but any proposed playground equipment designs will require further city approval later on in the approval process. Some comments from our Public Works and Engineering. They have not yet responded to staff's review. Input from the Building Inspection Department has not yet been received. The Police Department has commented that there's only one entrance and exit, so they'll need to ensure adequate access and turnaround for emergency vehicles. And the Fire Department will have to verify the location of fire hydrants once a utility plan has been submitted. Staff's following comments haven't changed from the December meeting very much. Development is generally compatible with the surrounding land uses. The proposed development generally meets the intent of the 2040 comp plan. Townhomes and/or condominiums containing more than 8 attached units are permitted use within this zoning district. PUD zoning will be required for the townhomes containing 8 or less attached units. At the time of this report, no information has been submitted regarding the proposed lot layout for the individual townhome units in the north. Further input will be sought from the city's Parks Commission regarding the desire for land versus cash dedication, and the building official's input has not yet been sought. There's 21 comments. I'm just going to go through the new ones that were most relevant with this new round of review. Garbage receptacles shall be stored within garages or fully screened from view. We've dealt with this issue in a similar development, and that was the requirement imposed on them. So just being fair, staff thought we'd throw that one on there. The developer shall work with Elko New Market Postmaster to find an acceptable location within the development for mailboxes. That one's pretty standard, but we also thought we should address that as well. Ground level patio shall be provided for all townhome units. Privacy fences constructed of vinyl or brick and of consistent design shall be provided between adjacent rear yard patio areas to separate them. An in-ground irrigation system would be required as part of the multifamily zoning. And the applicant must demonstrate how emergency vehicles, garbage, and delivery trucks can turn around within the site by providing a detailed turning radius. That has been somewhat provided, as we'll get to. So right now, we're asking the Planning Commission for feedback related to the proposed concept plan dated 2/8/25. And also, as you'll see here, the applicants have submitted an additional concept plan. We're calling this kind of the alternative concept plan to get your thoughts on it. Really, the only difference is, I'll put them side by side. The southern units are pushed together, so they achieve that over 8 units now. This basically gives the developer a little more space to work with, open space, landscaping, green area. It also reduces one more thing the PUD is needed for. So we kind of want to get feedback on both of these, but specifically the one dated 2/12. Overall, they're pretty similar. If there's any questions, Larry and Alyssa are here to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Just trying to blow this up. So really, we're just looking at the differences between the first submitted plan and the alternative plan, and
Yeah, especially, Larry, I think you really wanted to get their thoughts on just the townhomes being pushed together in the southern half, if that's preferable, since it's a minor change, but it will end up affecting a lot of things in the end result.
And it helps with the not needing that much in the PUD or what?
So yeah, part of the PUD approval was necessary to accommodate the units that were 8 townhome units, 8 or less attached units. So by pushing them together, we get past that.
Does it make for better parking at the end there, or?
So the parking hasn't changed at all in the southern half. For both plans, it's the same number of parking spaces. The dimensions have changed a little bit.
Provides a little more green space or open space between the southerly unit and the
Parking lot.
parking area.
And the turnaround, as you see those two circles on both plans in the southern portion of the property, they depict a 55-foot-long semi with a trailer. So it would go in, north and south. It would have to turn sideways, back up, and then go back up to the north. So emergency access is definitely compatible. It's just we're going to have an issue maybe with the beeping if there's a lot of delivery trucks or garbage trucks or something going through on a regular occasion.
Sure.
And the depiction of the two-bedroom home is the ones that are on the south end, and
Yep.
the north ones are different? but
We haven't
similar?
seen a layout of the northern units, just the southern.
Is it safe to say, Larry or Alyssa, that the two-bedroom, or the units with the two-stall garages will be similar to those that were constructed in Dakota Acres First Edition?
Yeah, the 3 bedrooms, yeah, close to that,
Very, okay,
maybe a little bit even bigger,
okay,
a few feet bigger.
okay.
So the front ones are two-stall garages?
Yeah, the northerly,
I
Yep.
see.
the two northerly buildings are two-stall garages, and the southerly buildings are single-stall.
The lower units are just a little more affordable units, and, I don't think there's anything quite like it down here yet.
Well, I appreciate the redesign. I think the flow, if I remember right, from months before these, right, there was a flow issue.
With the apartments.
Yes, correct. So, I'm not sure exactly, what is the preference from the developer, the first one or the second one? I mean, I understand that we're trying to solve for a zoning problem.
It's kind of more of aesthetics than anything else, to have a longer building and break it up. I mean, it's the same size units, this is the same amount of units. Like Renee said, it does give you a little bit more open space, I'm not quite sure what the difference is, but something. So that's why we just see what your opinion was. We don't really care either way.
Well, I, for one, appreciate the separation between the buildings, the illusion of more space. And I know that marketing purposes, it's easier to sell or rent end units than middle units. So I would be supportive of the first concept plan.
We gotta do a PUD anyway, it doesn't matter.
It's
You're
true.
right. I mean, you got 4 end units, otherwise you only get 2.
I think that with the plan that was submitted today, that provides a little more area on the south, it might provide for a little better vehicle circulation on that southern portion, at least for the larger emergency vehicles or delivery vehicles or garbage trucks. So I think we'll continue to work with Larry and Alyssa and the city engineer just to model that truck and actually show the flow of the actual truck. You can see on here the truck's parked, but what we typically see is the actual movement of the truck being modeled, which is lacking on this plan. So we could maybe, look at a typical garbage truck and maybe our longest fire truck and see if there's a difference between the two plans.
But there's a 45 radius between tires, wheel to wheel. Not the, but that's how it's laid out. Which gives you, a standard fire truck, you could turn around in there. And if you brought in, I don't know, huge ladder rig, maybe not. I don't know.
And we were measuring our longest fire truck it's around there. I think it's just under 55 feet, so this is comparable.
Should be.
Well, if we're planning for trucks, why would we want the trash man to come through this and then make a U-turn, whip back? To me, again, I'm not a planner, but wouldn't it make more sense then to have the trash and the mail then to the north of all the buildings there, or?
The trash is individual trash.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's not a-
dumpster.
It's not a
I don't think.
dumpster.
Of the,
Apartments that
right.
would have a dumpster, I would assume.
the mail will be a mail bank,
Okay.
most likely.
Yeah.
Probably in the north somewhere.
Yeah, the mail will be more centralized, if the trash is,
Individual.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah, and then, I mean, I think the next biggest issue is, regarding the site plan is really the lack of the open space that's required under our code in the R4 zoning district. So we have high-density areas, just recreation area within the site. I know Jake touched on, them needing to really identify where that is and the square footage attached to it. I think that's probably the next biggest issue, and then us, being able to review a landscaping plan that really works within the development once the trees are mature. It's pretty tight in the development right now,
Yeah,
as it's laid out.
I think the open, there's plenty of open space there, but it's just gotta define it a little better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't make it, I think. What's on there right now, I can't remember, is it 36, 49?
It's 10% exactly is listed, which is the minimum requirement, so it's right on the edge.
But I think we're over that.
Yeah, green area and landscape, but that's above the minimum requirement. They're shown above the minimum requirements.
I think you plugged in an extra shrubs and trees, probably another 75 than what's required normally, you know. Because it isn't one tree in front of each place, kind of the basic stuff.
So it's different,
It's-
kind of,
yeah,
with
and-
multifamily products.
Yeah, in multifamily, we don't have actually a tree counter requirement. We have it's not like one tree per unit, or it's not a calculation like that.
It's just overall landscaping calculation, which includes grass and
What is it, do you have a minimum or not really?
it's 30%. Yeah.
30% of the site shall be landscaped.
That includes sod and all.
hmm
Yeah,
Rock and everything, right? I mean,
yeah, pretty much. Pretty much everything that's outside of the buildings.
cement and asphalt is not landscaping, but
Correct.
the rock
Yeah.
and
But on
mulch.
there, it
Decorative.
shows who we're using always to buffer the two developments there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you got coverage year round for that, plus trees in there. And I don't think it shows the shrubs, there's shrubs on the side of the buildings and the back and that stuff.
Yeah, I think one thing on this plan that was really difficult for us to understand is, we don't understand, or I don't personally, the distance between the buildings that are existing there today and what you're being proposed. Is that 50 feet, or I don't know what that is.
Yeah, well, get into engineering. when
Yeah,
we show up.
right. Yeah, so I guess it is important to note that, we're still are at a concept plan level, and we don't have engineered plans, so the feedback that we're,
Isn't that part of the PDD process?
yeah, the formal application process, yeah. So,
Wow.
Yeah, that'll
Yeah.
help answer a lot more of our questions.
Do you think on the northwestern part of the houses that you would push that as far back to the property line as you could, because then you get more roadway in between, or is that, what was your thought process on that? On the far northwest bank,
Okay.
is that pushed all the way back towards that setback? I don't know what it is it 30?
yeah, the 30-foot setback is
this Oh, green okay.
It looks like it's lined up.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah, it's pretty much out of it, I think. Plus you got that
Easement
mound, that
Yeah.
big mound back there too. Is that next to Mahoney's, right?
Yes.
Is that-
Yeah, Maloney's is right here. And then this, I think the 30-foot setback line again is, it's pretty much right at the end of the patios or the porches here. Yeah, right here.
Is there a 30 there? I didn't
Yeah,
think
there's-
that was,
That's a 30-foot setback, I think it says right here.
oh. So
Yeah.
there's your answer, it's 30 plus whatever the other ones were. I think those were on the line almost,
Mm-hmm. I think they were.
the northern ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Very
those are
close.
right on
I-
the line.
As far back as,
You can't go any further.
yeah.
That takes a little bit away to the green space too. You know,
Yeah, I,
Right.
Mm.
I just saying for driving or looking, you know what I'm saying, there's, you know.
Nice to have 100 feet.
Especially for moving trucks, I suppose, so. Not everyone can drive a trailer. I like it myself.
Yeah, I do too.
I agree that the separation of the smaller units is fine with me, cause it's a perceived.
It breaks it up and it, yeah.
Instead of one huge
long
11 or
building.
12 unit building, it would be just,
Mhm.
I think, big.
Yeah, I do like that comment. Makes sense.
I'm not worried about the 8-unit thing, but, you know.
I'm not so much worried about the 8-unit thing. I think, I voiced, I think at the last meeting too, was just the ability for safety purposes, the emergency vehicles being
Yeah.
able to access. I mean, that's, to me, like, number one, but
Mhm.
I think I like both concepts, but I do like the one separated.
Joe? Any
I'd
thoughts?
be fine with either or, but honestly, the second one just makes more sense with how it's split up to me.
Okay. And by that, you mean the first concept?
Or, sorry, first.
Yep. Okay, pretty consistent feedback on that. Anything else you were looking for from the commission tonight?
I don't think so. Ready to move forward.
Yep.
Spring's here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
mud's drying up, so.
All right.
Thank you for coming.
Yes,
Yep,
thank you. Appreciate
you.
your time.
Appreciate it.
Yes, thanks. Back to my list here. All right, we'll go on to general business B, review title 11-8-8-2 of city code regarding recreational vehicle parking.
So hard to share your screen with all the Zoom stuff in the way. Okay. So this is a topic we haven't talked about in a long time. Some of you might not have been on the commission when this happened, but back in September of 2019, we discussed recreational vehicle parking on residential properties, which was spurred by the results of a citywide inventory of code violations related to garbage cans and recreational vehicles. Compared to garbage cans, recreational vehicles were far fewer in number, but had the potential for much greater visual impact. 16% of the properties in Elko New Market had some sort of violation related to recreational vehicle parking as part of that inventory. Most of the violations were related to parking recreational vehicles in prohibited location, which is mostly the driveway, or a prohibited surface on the grass without proper screening, which was basically everyone. So although approximately 30% of the properties had a recreational vehicle present, had it parked in a permissible location, only one had the screening that was required as part of the former city code. City Code Section 11.8.2 formerly required that recreational vehicles were screened unless parked for the purposes of loading or unloading, whether parked in a conforming location or not, to the height of the vehicle or 6 feet, whichever is less. So it didn't matter if you had a four-wheeler or, a golf cart in your backyard, you had to build a fence or something to screen it with. Some types of recreational vehicles, including folding tent campers and utility trailers, were allowed to be parked on the driveway without screening from April to October. Other types of recreational vehicles, such as boats, motorhomes, campers, large utility trailers, were only allowed to be stored on the side yard of properties so long as they met size and setback requirements. Results of the inventory had indicated that the city's former practice definitely did not reflect what was being required by the city code. Based on those results, staff recommended that the city code be amended to better reflect the current practice and allow more flexibility for the storage of garbage cans and parking of recreational vehicles. So here's the previous ordinance. It was actually fairly strict. It was actually kind of confusing as well. So it differentiated all these different types of recreational vehicles and what ones were allowed to be parked in the driveway, what ones were allowed to be parked in the side yard. And during some had specific dates. All of them needed screening unless they didn't require screening from April to October for certain types. It was kind of a mess. So here's that citywide inventory of the recreational vehicle violations. All of these purple squares indicate a property that had a violation. And garbage, just for fun, there's a lot more garbage ones. In 2019, staff also researched the recreational vehicle parking requirements in 10 other cities. The usual cities we look at: Apple Valley, Belle Plaine, Farmington, Jordan, Lakeville, Lonsdale, New Prague, Prior Lake, Savage, and Shakopee. All those cities researched allowed recreational vehicles to be parked in driveways. 6 of the cities allowed them to be in the driveway year-round, and the remaining 4 allowed them in the driveway seasonally based on the type of recreational vehicle. Some cities did have size limitations that prevented large vehicles from being parked in the driveway unless granted some sort of conditional use permit. Most of the cities also allowed recreational vehicles to be stored in the side yard without screening, but did require that they be parked on a hard or improved surface, not gravel. The most common number of recreational vehicles that cities allowed on a property was 3, but some had a reduced number specific to the number of recreational vehicles allowed in the driveway. Based on this research, staff recommended the following amendments to the Planning Commission and later the City Council. We added ATVs, dirt bikes, dune buggies, go-karts, golf carts, ice houses, and snowmobiles and UTVs as recreational vehicles by definition. We exempted non-motorized watercrafts like kayaks and canoes from the section. We regulate them currently as exterior storage. We identified 3 seasonal classifications: warm weather, cold weather, or year-round. We allowed up to 2 recreational vehicles to be parked in the driveway during periods of seasonal use, and 3 total recreational vehicles to be parked outside of the property during periods of seasonal use. We required that all recreational vehicles not exceed 30 feet in length. We prohibited them from extending into the public right-of-way. Allowed only 1 recreational vehicle exceeding 24 feet to be parked on a residential property, so you can have 3 long campers, you can only have 1. We removed the screening requirement totally. We permitted recreational vehicles to be parked in the rear or side yard on a surface of concrete, just any hard surface except gravel, so long as it met the 5-foot setback from property lines. Included exceptions for properties with existing gravel side parking areas, and staff continues to add to that list using satellite imagery to see which properties are grandfathered in. We enumerated recreational vehicles parked on a trailer as 1 recreational vehicle. So you can have a snowmobile trailer with 2 snowmobiles on it. That's 1 recreational vehicle, not 3. We removed non-conforming location permits as well. All in all, these amendments made it a lot easier for residents to store recreational vehicles on their property, as it removed the screening requirement and provided needed clarification and definitions associated with recreational vehicles and parking. Here's some pictures just for reference from the inventory that was done. We saw it all back in 2019. I didn't, Renee and Haley did when they were out and about, but it was getting out to a point where people were parking stuff just behind their house on the grass, and as you can see, some of these pictures are better than others. So today, this conversation has been spurred by several residents, which were recently cited for recreational vehicle parking violations. These violations were related to campers or motorhomes, which were being stored in driveways outside of the permitted warm weather season, which runs from April to November. Campers, motorhomes, motorized watercraft, ice, fish houses, snowmobiles are all currently restricted to seasonal classifications, as I'll show you here. The City Council instructed the Planning Commission at a recent meeting to re-examine the recreational vehicle parking seasonal classification list to see if changes are recommended. Specifically, they wanted to look at, to see if you guys would be in favor of allowing campers, motorhomes, ice and fish houses to be classified as year-round uses rather than seasonal. The reasoning for this is that many currently use their fish houses in the summer for camping and vice versa. It's becoming more and more common for people to go camping in actual campers in the winter. Staff do not recommend changing the seasonal classifications associated with boats or snowmobiles, as they are actually physically limited by the seasonal use. Some pros and cons to think about during this discussion. Pros, it would reduce the need for enforcement by staff. It would also simplify the code by reducing extra requirements for certain vehicles. Many residents currently utilize their campers year-round, reducing the possibility of maintenance-related issues. Some cons, we would see increased potential for abuse of people parking recreational vehicles in the right-of-way, increased potential for unlicensed or inoperable vehicles to be stored with no screening. Many residents who currently pay for off-site storage may be incentivized to store their recreational vehicle on-site if allowed, which would increase the presence overall in the city. So here's our current seasonal classification list. As you can see, the warm weather, cold weather season. We're just looking for feedback and guidance from you guys to see if a change is recommended.
And that's specifically related to the campers, the ice houses, and then the motorhomes, right?
That's what the discussion was started off of. I don't think we would recommend changing snowmobiles or boats.
Right, right. I mean,
Crossover ones you're
Oh.
talking about, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when we did this, it was a lot of work.
It was, yeah, it was.
And we did make some good strides on this. And I can understand people's concerns about using their motorhomes year-round, or their campers, or ice houses. I have friends that do that too. But so that's, I just want to clarify, like, that's specifically what we're looking at, right?
That's what we're
Not the-
asking you to look at specifically, yes.
Well, of course, you can, if you think changes are needed in other areas, you can always recommend that
As part of the process.
as part of this process.
Personally, I like everything else. Yeah, but that's my personal thought. I thought we did some really good work on that.
How
But
would you classify them? I mean, the crossover fish house slash
Yeah.
B or?
like move it over to the
We would
year-round.
just move them over to the year-round category
I wouldn't
altogether.
say ice houses, period. I would say ice houses converted, or, I mean, the ones that are meant to be dual purpose. I mean,
That would be really difficult for staff to interpret, because,
They all
like,
look
for
alike.
instance, I have an ice house that has an air conditioning unit on the top, so that's pretty clearly a camper ice house.
yeah.
But if it didn't have air conditioning on the top, I could argue that I use it for camping and fishing. I think it would be really difficult for staff to interpret
Yeah.
or make an argument.
Yeah.
I
I'm
have
not
a friend that
convinced
has
that,
one that doesn't have the air conditioning on top, but they
But they
put
still
one
use it.
inside and they cool it.
Sure.
and- Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that any changes need to happen, honestly. No. They need to figure it out,
Okay.
honestly. Thank you.
Okay, so you're good with that as it is? Okay.
So you would put campers in the cold season?
Year-round.
I mean, it's really up to the owner to store it wherever they want to store it, but I am open to changing just those pieces. The other pieces of it, that we've gone through extensively, I like, and I think they're good. I understand the reasoning why, and hearing what the residents want, and try to work with them. I don't know if they're aware of, like, all the other things we've put in place too to help kind of mitigate this too, with the storage sheds that we just increased too.
That's a good.
So was this brought up at the city council? I know there was a
It
whole
was brought up at
Facebook
the,
thing.
yeah,
and
there
then,
was the
like,
whole Facebook thing, and, I think I went, as the senior planner here, I want to remind the commission that when you see vocal group on Facebook, it might be 10 vocal people out of 5,000
Right.
residents, so
Yeah, so that's
you
why.
have to keep it
that's-
in,
yeah.
keep things in perspective, but the city council did specifically just direct the planning commission to
Okay.
see if you felt changes were necessary.
Okay.
And most specifically regarding the seasonal classifications.
And I guess my question with that was, because we are getting new residents and more people, and this was changed a while ago, and even in the beginning, it was, when it was so strict, that wasn't even really well-known, like,
Nor was it enforced.
right,
So for the newer members of the commission, pre-2019, the city wasn't doing code enforcement, so nothing that was on the books was being enforced. And we wanted to enforce what was on the books.
and then we did this change, and then, like, I just don't know how many people are knowledgeable about this, you know
Few.
what I mean?
Very few.
Yeah.
You put it in your newspaper article, your periodical?
I believe I have seen it,
I put it in there once
yeah.
year.
I mean, I would put it in the spring again.
We do like reminders.
I'm just thinking educational
think-
piece, but also,
Nicole's, I think, talking more about like educating them on the history of the ordinance and
Sure.
like, yeah.
what we did to make it more convenient for people.
I don't know. are you
Be more
saying-
transparent, I guess.
I think you're just sharing that there's an ordinance out there for some people that are
Right.
new. They probably don't even know about it.
Right.
I think if you put it in your periodical, that it'll be helpful, you know.
And again, like I said, I am open to moving them over. I understand both sides of it. We do have the limitation in there where they can only have that one trailer, right? Or,
Long,
Over 24
Yeah.
feet.
yeah.
Yeah,
So, I mean, that limits it too, right?
yes.
So how many? So they can't have like their one 20-foot, 4-foot trailer and another ice castle or something.
yeah,
or could
horse
they?
trailer.
Well, most ice castles are
I don't know. This is a brand
probably
I
less
know.
than 24 feet, the majority of them, but, you know, you can get some dual axles that are maybe longer. a
Yeah,
little bit.
but if I have a 20-foot ice castle, I'm calling it a camper. I mean, because you're going to use it 80% of the time for camping, not for ice fishing, because ice is very short window. You know, you spend
Yeah.
$20,000 on something to put out on 2 weeks of ice, you know, so, yeah. That's why I would say, I would just, if you wanted to move something, I would move campers. I wouldn't move ice houses. I would call it a camper, you know?
But then
And
I
again, it's
think
a
of like where
slippery
Renee was going,
slope,
how do you
right?
differentiate the two?
Yeah, I don't think, no, people can figure this out. And it would be nice if people felt strongly about it, our neighbors, rather than on Facebook, come and tell us. But I suspect it's the same people that you've had problems with in years past, and they're not doing anything about it. But that's my opinion.
So we're kind of mixed.
Well, I think I only have heard a strong opinion from 2 of you. I'm not, you think that it
I'm on the
can,
fence of not doing much, if anything, so.
okay.
You know,
Kind of agreed with Brad just as far as if there was a way to keep the ice and fish houses out, but like you guys said, it's tough to differentiate between that and I guess calling it a camper, so.
I mean,
that's where
if you got like a
Yeah.
homemade fish house, you can probably identify that that wouldn't really be a camper.
But
But
you don't know
still, that
that.
would be tough to, you know,
20 years ago when there weren't all these ice castles and stuff. it'd be
right,
a lot
right, when
easier.
they're all plywood.
Yeah.
Yeah,
On skids, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So,
So, I mean, I would definitely put this in the next article you put out.
It's in May, but
Yeah, I mean, just share it, no matter when it is, I guess, so.
We usually try to do some education pieces in the May newsletter because we do we start doing our code enforcement usually in May, in later May. So it gives people a chance to, you know, if they have exterior storage or things that are parked illegally, that, a reminder for them to get them in compliance before we do our citywide sweep.
is it possible, and I know this is soon, I'm sorry, but to get this out in April to give people some more time as opposed to sending it out in May and then doing the enforcement in May, you know?
Anything is possible, but
I'm just
I
asking.
think that I would prefer it in May just because people might forget, and if they just see it then they'll be like, okay, they're coming in a couple weeks, so.
Well, I think, well, and I'm
Early
thinking
May.
of myself too, like April, that's when we switch stuff.
Right, yeah, for sure.
Sure,
So,
that's a good point.
Facebook, for sure, I'll put a Facebook post up, but,
because I know that's when people are starting to, you know, go grab and exchange winter for summer stuff.
Yeah, if people are
That's a good
doing
point.
it or thinking about doing it, I'm assuming, so, I mean, be good to remind those that are new to the community or whatever that there is.
Right, because I mean, it's already in my brain that I'm like, okay, we gotta get the boat, drop off the snowmobile trailer. It's just in my routine, but it's not in other people's
Yeah.
routines.
And you could also do something about the garbage containers and whatnot, you know, just a little, along with this, you could include
Be
something about.
adjacent to the building,
Yeah. Or enclosed in your garage, or whatever the case may
whatever you
be.
preference, just adjacent to the building, please.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Thankfully.
And then there are people that can take their campers and they park them in front of their house for whatever the period is, so they can clean them out or whatever and restock them, and then they move on or go on vacation or whatever. So there is that window, right? What was
There
it?
is a provision, I think, in the right-of-way section of the code that allows a camper to be parked on the street for
Loading, unloading.
more than 24 hours, maybe 48 hours or
think it's
something.
48 hours.
48 hours.
Yeah.
That's in
It's
a totally
long
different section
time,
of the
but
code,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, is there a way, you know, I'm trying to like help the community feel like they're being heard and not just being dismissed. So I feel like that's important. Is there a way to like get, I know there's that Facebook stuff, but something that we could facilitate to kind of generate more feedback from them and maybe see what they're looking for? I don't know what that would look like. I know, I'm
probably
taking a
be-
deep breath.
Oh, the
For more?
Survey Monkey?
But you, I'm just, you know, and maybe that's just not even related to this, but just even for future things.
I'd have to relook at the social media policy for the city. And
Sure.
probably talk to Tom, but the first thing that comes to my mind is a Facebook poll,
Sure.
you know, so.
I mean,
Yeah, I think the city council ultimately would need to direct if we wanted to go to the route of doing some kind of community-wide survey.
sure.
But
And-
I'm
and
not
I'm not
sure
thinking
that
like
that's where they're at.
Yeah, and I'm not thinking like community-wide survey, just like, I don't know, questions, like box, like suggestion box.
2,000 and some change out of our 5,000 residents are on Facebook, so
Yeah,
you're only getting not even half, but
Right.
it's still pretty
it's a
good.
good chunk, yeah. I don't know, I'm just trying to figure out how to get more transparency from us, and I think we are doing a good job.
Well, I think we're discussing it here.
Yeah.
This is being transparent, in my opinion.
So,
Yeah, and I think it is important to note that even that there was a lot of Facebook chatter about it. Nobody came to a city council meeting
right,
to discuss it, so.
okay.
And I'd like to point out too that there's nobody in the public that's even virtual or online listening. So, you know, I know
Yeah.
that there's that Facebook realm, but how much, how much do you give them, right? When they're really not the majority oftentimes, right? They're just the loudest because they're there.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the anonymity of Facebook and social media. No, presence is key, for sure. Okay, so make
What do we
the,
have to do with this right now? Nothing, or just?
make the recommendation, we don't want to make changes?
Sounds like 3-1, no changes are needed at this time, or I don't want to speak for the commission if we want to do like a roll call vote.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with leaving it.
I'm
ride.
fine with leaving it too, that's fine with me.
I'm good with it.
Okay.
Okay.
That's the recommendation. We'll get a motion on it, though. Just
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
thank you.
Okay, And then miscellaneous community development updates.
Not that I have any. I think the only update is maybe that we did receive the application for final plat approval of the parcel north of City Hall. I can't remember if we had received that at the last meeting yet or not. So it's MI Homes. They're a national builder, and they would actually construct the development, and they're proposing to construct it in 2 phases. So they're only final platting half of the development at this, are proposing at this point. So we're reviewing the construction plans right now and drafting a development contract, which would go to the city council probably in April, and then they could construct after that.
I noticed that there was a lot of tree clearing at the exits down here on 2 and 35. Does that mean anything?
No, that's just MinDOT
They're
doing
just
their
cleaning the highway.
normal stuff.
They did it all the way up to 70.
I can hope.
Yes. Well, speaking of the topic we were just on, I saw some trucks in the backyards of some houses over there. That was interesting. I was like, whoa,
Yep,
neat parking spot.
yep.
We're getting reports through our building official that Lennar is having good success in selling the spec houses that they're putting up. So they're really pleased with Alcoa Market. It was a test market for them, and it's going better than they expected.
How about Ryan Properties? They only got the one house.
Yeah, and that was theirs. I know they do have a contract with another builder to purchase some of the lots in their development, so, yeah.
Did they sell it or not?
It's still on the market, the one that's there, yeah,
I see.
yeah.
I didn't know if it was waiting for the parade and throwing it
I
out there.
don't think it's on the parade, but I suppose they get business now. People are out looking, but I don't believe it's gone pending.
I see. Yeah, I moved from this development to that development, and then one of my
Did you?
neighbors is moving from this development to that
Are
development
they?
behind you.
Really?
Yeah, they're gonna be at that 2-story right behind you, I think, so. One on the corner.
Oh, okay, 2 down, okay.
So, yeah, they're growing family, or they think the design was different than what they had up here, so they're,
Sure.
yeah.
Nice houses, tiny little lots. They have no yard.
That's the way.
Personal preference, I guess,
Yeah,
but
that's the way these days. I was just gonna see if that one.
So anything on the, up by the school or for development or?
It's a little bit in they submitted, they're getting into more detailed engineering on that, and they have had to tweak a little, a few things in the development based on some things they are finding out through the more detailed engineering. But kind of the holdup on that is the wetland. They have to do a wetland delineation, and it has to go through an approval process through this, it's called the Technical Evaluation Panel, which is this, DNR, Scott Soil and Water, all the wetland professionals have to get together and decide if they agree on the wetlands. And so there's a little bit of a delay because of that.
I see.
And usually they can't do the field work on the wetland identification until the growing season, so
Oh,
it's just
if you got cattails.
a little bit early. Even just the tiniest, like, wetland vegetation doesn't have to be cattails, it's just different types of grasses and stuff, so, but I think it's moving along as we expected. You guys can think of? Yeah,
all right.
okay.
All right, anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
Oh you should vote. I'll do second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned at 7:58 PM. Thank you.